As we all know, Hacking Bob completely shuts him down for 3 seconds. But here's the thing, if you do the very same to Zenyatta, who is also an Omnic, nothing happens. So what if we change that and made it so that now it applies the very same logic as it does to Bob? I took a whole bunch of other hero abilities to see what will happen if we made them more realistic or in some cases lore accurate instead, to see how broken or useless they will become. Before covering each individual hero, let's look at some of the types of abilities that exist in Overwatch and see how they will work if they were to be realistic. To make things a bit easier to understand, I'll divide certain abilities into 2 types: device abilities and superpowers. Let's take for example teleport abilities. Teleports of heroes like Kiriko or Reaper will classify as a superpower, which won't be realistic, but teleportations of Sombra or Symmetra is a device-related ability which arguably can be a plausible thing of the future, so in their case they can remain as realistic. All the burning effects now last indefinitely unless they are extinguished by either of 3 things, like Mei's Ice Primary Fire, Wu Yang and pretty much any of his abilities, and stepping into water, which there are not that many on the Overwatch maps, and most of them are considered to be environmental death zones. So, the 2 maps that have clear water source and are also safe are behind the never vote for this map jail, Atlas and Paraiso. Oh, wait, there's an invisible wall here. Gosh darn it. Any of the explosive attacks now basically instantly kill you if you stand close to them or receive a direct impact. Because realistically, nobody's going to survive the blast from an explosive this close. This obviously also applies to self-damage, so no more fancy rollouts as Bastion or combining Emre's ultimate with a grenade. There are a number of heroes who can deal crush type of attacks, usually by using blunt weapons like hammer or mace. And while not only are they capable of causing great amount of physical damage to somebody, but also inflict a concussion. Or in the Overwatch terms, each individual attack with such weapons should cause a stun effect. What makes absolutely no sense is wall climbing, that is as long as it is performed on a completely flat surface wall that has nothing to latch on. For example, these walls on Hanamura have absolutely nothing that you can use to climb your way upwards, while these rocks on Route 66 look pretty climbable to me. And it should be fine to give an exception to the short wall climbs, because realistically you can just do a long jump to reach the ledge of a surface in real life. And one more category, hack, which is mostly only available to Sombra, so we'll just talk about it later in the video when we cover her in more depth. But now, let's talk about what you all came here for. Me. Fine, let's talk about heroes. Anna's sleep dart, realistically speaking, makes no sense at all. In real world, if you want to sleep, or rather tranquilize a huge animal, you have to use a quite potent tranquilizer, sometimes multiple of them. And if such tranquilizer is used on a human, the person will most likely die from it. So in Overwatch, using a sleep dart on Winston or Mauga makes absolute sense due to their size allowing them to survive the effects of it. But using it on a tiny human like Juno would realistically kill her shortly after. We also shouldn't forget that most heroes also wear a thick layer of protective clothes on their bodies, so obviously a sleep dart is not a bullet and it is traveling at a much lower velocity. Naturally, it will pierce a layer of armor and thus not tranquilize a target. That is unless you shoot at the exposed parts of their bodies, which will work and makes an absolute sense. Now you might be thinking, what about our fellow Omnic and Robot friends? In their case, the sleep dart obviously won't do anything, since they are not living beings. Oh yeah, and speaking of exposed body parts, Mace Freeze now works differently. Depending on the amount of clothes or armor a hero is wearing, the freeze effect will either be more or less effective. So a hero like Junkrat who is barely wearing any clothes will be affected the most. You might also say that, hey, Mauga has a whole chest open, shouldn't he be affected as well? Well, due to his overall body mass and muscles, he is less susceptible to the effects of cold, so he has a natural immunity to it. The way Moira's suck work is that she drains the biotic energy out of her opponents, which is then converted to her healing. But wait, have you noticed something weird? Look closely at what I am doing right now. Does something feel off? Well, let me ask you something. What does the word biotic mean? It describes any part of an environment or ecosystem that comes from a living organism, such as plants, animals, fungi, and bacteria. The hero who I am, sucking right now is not a living organism, but a piece of metal. In other words, it makes total sense to suck the life out of human heroes, which will then transform into healing. However, Omnics and robots don't have this sort of life in them, which means that realistically it shouldn't be possible to damage them with Moira's biotic grasp, nor will it be possible to heal them either with any sort of biotic healing. This also includes other heroes who use biotic weapons and devices. But when it comes to Brigitte, it is the complete opposite. One of her primary sources of healing is called the Repair Pack. Obviously, in real life, we don't repair humans. We repair things like cars, computers, or phones. Unless you're Nokia. So by applying the real-life logic, Brigitte will be the only support hero in Overwatch to actually heal non-human heroes. And trying to heal humans will result in no health restored. Okay, unless the hero has armor as part of their HP bar, then sure, we can make an exception. And also when it comes to Wu Yang, he should also not be able to heal any of the nuts and bolts heroes, because we know what happens when we combine electricity and water. Any of his attacks should result in double damage against these heroes, while also making it impossible to heal his own teammates with water. But while water hurts electronics, we shouldn't forget that our devices are powered by electricity. That's how we charge our phones and other devices, so the same logic should also apply to Overwatch. In the Overwatch lore, Tracer is completely dependent on the thing called Chronal Accelerator, which is a life support device made by Winston. Long story short, without this device, Tracer's time traveling abilities will become unstable and she would start moving around the time uncontrollably. So you probably know where this is going. Shooting her in the chest or the back should result in her just moving all over the place and maybe even teleporting her to some completely random place on the planet. If you're enjoying this video so far, please feel free to subscribe and like the video. But also, these videos take a lot of time to make, so if you'd like to support me so I can make more of these videos, then consider becoming a channel or a Patreon member, where you can have things such as early access to the videos, end of a video credit, and have your name displayed on one of the bots that I use in my videos. Thank you, and now let's go back to the video. Roadhog's hook pulls all heroes with the same speed, which shouldn't be possible. We already spoke about hero sizes, and this one shouldn't be an exception either. If we look at Juno, we'll notice that she is quite tiny, which won't be a problem for Roadhog to pull her in. But if we take somebody bigger, like Mauga for example, then it will definitely be a much bigger struggle for Roadhog to pull him in. The laws of physics don't stop here. We can apply the same logic to Wifelever and his pedal platform. If somebody of a light weight steps on the platform, it should go all the way up to its maximum possible lift height. But if a larger hero steps on it, the platform would only go up just a little bit. And if multiple heroes are standing on it, it'll just not work at all. Jetpack Cat is another good example of how physics should work. By picking up big heroes, she shouldn't be able to move as fast as she does without them, and instead only move slower, relative to the size of a hero she is carrying. Now, let's address an elephant in the room. No, not that one. Genji's reload. In case you never noticed, the way Genji reloads is by manufacturing new shurikens inside of his own body. Which doesn't make too much sense considering he can reload as much as his heart desires and he'll never stop producing new shurikens. So the question becomes, how are they made in his own body? This should not be even possible, so it should be limited to just a certain amount of reloads until he is forced to resupply or even better, switch to a better hero. Oh, and speaking of better heroes, the same goes to Hanzo because if you look closely, there are only 4 arrows in his quiver. So after firing 5 shots, he can just go back to spawn and switch to a better hero. And yes, I know, we can apply the same logic to most other heroes, like where does D.Va get her infinite supply of bullets for her mecha? Or is there some sort of a portal inside of Reaper's code where he grabs his new shotguns? Well, in order to explain all of that, let's first start with the most obvious thing that you all never thought about. It all started in 9... Ow, my eyes! Ugh, I'm blind, man. Who the fuck threw that? Oh yeah. Who else, I wonder? Of course it's this guy. One of Cassidy's abilities is called Flashbang. All it does is just give you a couple of stars above your head and limit your movement, which is not how it works in real life. At least I think so. I never watched Flashbang before. But anyway, so it should work like an actual flashbang so that whenever he throws it at your face, your screen just goes fully white and you can't see or hear anything for a short period of time. There are 2 more heroes who should in practice be able to blind and deafen their enemies. In particular, Illari should be able to blind you if she shoots you directly in the face with her primary. This is due to her essentially possessing the power of the sun, and we all know what happens when we look at the sun. While Lucian, his beat ultimate should make you go deaf, based on your proximity to him, as we all can imagine how loud the beat will be if we were to stand too close to it. And what you just saw right now is Juno getting run over by Shion's bike. In the real world, the faster the vehicle moves, the more lethal it becomes. We can even experience it in the game, here on Oasis, where the car just instantly kills us. So naturally, the same logic should be applied to Shion and her bike. If you are moving fast with the help of any speed boost, it should be possible to kill any tiny heroes by just running them over. However, trying to run over heroes who are way bigger than the bike will result in a different kind of scenario. Okay, just kidding, it will just slightly boot them back. Venture can burn themselves in the ground. Makes sense. Quite logical too, especially since moles exist. But have you ever thought if it should be possible to burrow inside of a pedal platform? Or inside of a bus? Or inside of somebody... Oh, okay, you get the point. It clearly shouldn't be possible to burrow yourself in something like thin platforms, vehicles and all that sort of stuff, so by standing on any of those surfaces should prevent Venture from even attempting to go underground. Oh yeah, and any sort of slams or shadows should whack Venture out of the ground. But anyway, Sombra. If we were to make Sombra as realistic as we can, then there are a whole lot of subjectively fun things we can do with her hack ability. You've already seen what happens when Omnic and robot heroes get hacked, essentially just fully disabling them, as it makes total sense. But what about humans? Hello. I said humans. Ooh la la. One of the fun Overwatch facts is that there are many heroes who have prosthetic body parts, or are essentially cyborgs. Take a look at Cassidy. His arm is full-on prosthetic, which he uses to throw grenade and punch. His flashbang already gets disabled when hacked, which is great. But what if we took a step further and completely disabled his quick melee alongside with it? Hazard's legs and his right arm are all prosthetics. Hacking him would essentially result in fully immobilizing him and not allowing him to shoot at all. While cyborg heroes, Sojourn and Genji, would essentially stop functioning and just be knocked down to the ground. And same goes to D.Va and her mecha, as well as Jetpack Cat, as they both are using machines to move around. And any of the tech weapons such as Winston's Tesla cannon or Iliari's sword also shut down and cannot be used. One thing I do not like about gameplay Sombra is how if the EMP touches even a pixel of a barrier, it just fully destroys it in its entirety. It would have been way cooler to see something different, where it instead creates a hole in the barrier. Yeah, this looks way cooler if you ask me. Oh, and one thing I almost forgot. Hack should not disable Soldiers' sprint ability. His legs are not prosthetics, so how in the world can anybody hack human legs? And we have some more heroes to realistify, so stick to the end to see some of more silly realistic abilities. Juno's boots are essentially anti-gravity boots, which allow her to hover above the ground at all times. This means that the effects of Sigma's gravitic flux should not work against her. At least that's how I see it. If you're an astrophysicist, then let me know in the comments if I am wrong. But also pretty much any hero who is hovering above the ground should be immune to any seismic abilities like Earth Shatter, Doomfist's Seismic Slam, or Sierra's Grenade. There are 5 heroes in Overwatch capable of dealing fire damage, and Anran can literally cover herself in flames and even become a freaking fireball. So Anran should be fully immune to any fire damage related attacks, meaning no damage is taken from Mauga, Ashe, Torbjorn or Illari. Okay, can I have everybody's attention right now? Stop eating your food and look at the screen. Okay, seriously, everybody, look at this. Look at Baptiste and his hand. Do you see anything on it? Like a trigger or a button? No, me neither. So, is there anyone that can explain to me why is it that when he makes a fist with his left hand, it triggers healing around himself? Is the thing on his back wired to his brain that triggers it whenever he puts a fist together? Then it should also work during his quick melee, but it doesn't. So it makes no sense whatsoever. Either give him something like a trigger that Junkrat has, or just more realistically, make it do nothing. Seriously, it should not do anything. Blizzard, please fix. Hazard, Bastion and Doomfist ultimates all have one thing in common. They all come down from the sky, or sometimes even from the ceiling as well. If you were to go back to, I don't know, 1944 and shoot a mortar, do you think it will just magically spawn from the ceiling? Nope. So, now all of these ultimates are restricted to the outside zones of all maps. Meaning, if you're inside of Dorado's last point, these abilities just become fully disabled. And if you're using one of these ultimates from the outside area and try to aim for the enemies who are inside of a building, it will simply just not work at all. What also shouldn't work is Ashe's coach gun. You see, the force of a double-barrel shotgun is not enough to move an entire human body this far back. I can imagine it will be quite realistic if instead of a shotgun, Ashe used a medieval cannon, but that's unfortunately not a buff people are ready for. So instead, it should just shoot and not apply any knockback to anyone. So you know how Emre has this pistol ability that overheats whenever you use it too fast without letting it cool down, right? So why is it that this tiny pistol overheats after a couple of shots while Bastion can shoot his cannon non-stop for 6 seconds? I have no idea why, so we're making it consistent by adding the very same mechanic here.
how's it going?
And finally, if Symmetra's teleporter gets destroyed just at the same time as she takes it, it should result in her being sent to another dimension where she'll be stuck forever.
Mission begins in 60 seconds.
Feel free to tell me which abilities you will make realistic. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribe if you want to see more. Also, check out one of these videos, I believe you might like them. Thank you all for watching.